tough to follow Christina. She's such an amazing photographer. Whew. Okay, I'll try my best. I'll start off by saying in 2016, I went on an assignment from National Geographic to visit all 59 of the US national parks in 1 year to celebrate the centennial of the Park Service. That's a mouthful, right? That's a crazy mouthful. And if you think it's a lot to say, then think again, because it's a lot to do. It's a crazy trip, and I'm excited to share it with you today. Before I do, just wanted to give a few words of thanks to some organizations that are important to me. National Geographic, I've been a part of the National Geographic family for 9 or 10 years now, and very honored, as always, to be a part of Nat Geo. Also, FUJIFILM was a major partner of this trip. I've been a FUJIFILM ex-photographer for probably about 4 years now, and I love FUJIFILM. It's important to say that this project probably wouldn't have happened if it weren't for FUJIFILM. They were stepped up immediately and said, go do this crazy thing that you want to do, and so major thanks to them. And lastly, also to B&H and Lindblad Expeditions for inviting me here to share this crazy project and this concept. So I just got back from Arctic Svalbard with this polar bear, and this is kind of what you get to see on these trips. If you haven't checked them out, please go check them out. They're absolutely amazing trips. So, national parks. A lot of people ask me, why parks? Why now? Why did you want to go do this crazy trip? And I can answer that question in a few different ways. One is from a very personal standpoint. I love the parks. I mean, the parks, I grew up exploring the parks. I had been to probably about half of the national parks before this. I've done assignment in many of the parks, and I love these parks. These parks are sacred ground to me. They're beautiful places. I'm not a very religious man, but if I stand in the redwoods or the sequoia groves, and I look up, that's a cathedral to me. These places are amazing. So on a very personal note, I wanted to give back to these amazing places. I wanted to give back to these national parks that have given me so much in my lifetime. And then, much more than a personal note is the fact that the centennial was a big deal. 2016 was the centennial of the Park Service, and this is a big deal. The fact that a few brave souls went against the grain of society at the time, maybe 130, 140 years ago, and decided to conserve land versus using it for whatever needs and wants that they had at the time for future and current generations, for the enjoyment of current and future generations, is a uniquely incredible idea. I'm still blown away by the fact that they got that done, and it's just an amazing place. So I really wanted to go and share that. The centennial was just a time to do it. And so we came up with this crazy idea, right? This crazy plan to hit all of them in 1 year. And if you're going to go to National Geographic or FUJIFILM and say, I want to hit all 59 parks in 1 year, you better make sure you know that you can do it, right? Otherwise, you get in a lot of trouble. This is a map of all the national parks in America, including American Samoa in the far bottom left, if you can see that. And so we first had to take a deep dive and say, can we do this, right? Can we go out and do this? 59 parks, 52 weeks. You can start to think about, that's about 1 every 6 days, right? 1 every 6 days. And then you think, well, some of the smaller parks like Congaree and Cuyahoga Valley, some of these lesser known parks, the Carlsbad Caverns, they're really only maybe 1 or 2 day parks. And the Yosemites and the Yellowstones, they're maybe more 8 or 9 day parks. So you can steal some days and add to other parks, and you start to work out this system, and it's like, actually, this could work, We could actually do this. It's tight, but it's possible. The other thing we dealt with a lot was seasonality, right? So how do you showcase the best of the parks in 1 year with the crazy seasons? So we started with basically the hardest area that had the most constricting season, and that's Alaska. Alaska has 8 parks in it. It's hard to get to. Every one of the parks you have to fly to for the most part, and really difficult to do. So we put Alaska dead center. July, August, that's when we're going to go to Alaska. And then we put the parks in warmer climates, you know, the Virgin Islands National Park, Dry Tortugas, all the ones in Florida, all the ones in the West, Hawaii and American Samoa, Haleakala, all those parks. So we put them at the January and December time frames, and then we just kind of filled in the gaps, you know, and it actually works. And we're like, okay, I think we could do this, which is an amazing thing. So we set up to have some goals of the parks, right? The project was first to inspire people to care about these places. That was the whole reason we wanted to do it, to inspire people to know about these places and to care about them. We wanted to treat each park equally. I met with the Department of Interior before going out, and they were so excited about the project because, you know, the Yellowstones, the Yosemites, they get so many visitors, they get so many play, but what about Kobuk Valley National Park in Alaska, or Isle Royale, some of these parks that nobody knows about. So it was very much our goal to treat everyone equally and show them equally. And it was not enough just to dip our toe in a park, right? We had to get into the park and explore it deeply. That meant backpacking, getting off the main routes to really get in there. And of course, how we are going to inspire people and how we are going to, you know, show this is through beautiful imagery and stories of our project. And lastly, to finish on time, oh my gosh, I would say even like December 5th, I had no idea that we would actually finish on time. You think about just the smallest thing could have thrown us off. So this was a big goal, and it was always that push to actually do the project, 59 and 52. And then to have fun, right? I would be lying to say if you know, it wasn't about having a good time as well. So, you know, we had our goals, we had our plan, we had our routing, and then we kind of pitched this idea to companies, and we put together a really nice list of organizations that were aligned with our vision. Like I said, FUJIFILM, it was one of the most easiest conversations I had with them. I said, I want to do this. What about this? And they said, send me an invoice. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, amazing. Thank you. And then National Geographic Travel as well, you know, shared the images. Airstream provided us a trailer to travel in, so the Greatest American Road Trip had an Airstream to travel in. And then along with some other, you know, state tourism boards and gear companies, we put together a really nice package of people and organizations that were really aligned with us, and we took off, right? We built a website, 59 parks in 52 weeks, the Greatest American Road Trip, and we went off. So I keep saying we, right? We. I'm just standing up here. So I wanted to introduce Stephanie. Stephanie's my partner in crime. She is my, you know, partner in life as well. And this is the project. She's a writer. I'm a photographer and more the logistics guy. But to do this project with your partner in life was just so much fun. I mean, it's a really special treat to go out there. And we had so much fun, right? This is getting to Alaska after 5 days on the Alcan Highway, which was just an endless highway. But, you know, we're like, woo, the Klondike Gold Rush is here, and we're just so happy to get there. And, you know, this is us catching fish in Alaska, and she's trying to tell me something about my affection for her or something, I think. And, you know, and then we would be silly at times, you know, with the prairie dogs in South Dakota. And, you know, you see a sign that says 100 feet below sea level, and you just have to don the snorkel gear, in my opinion. But we also had really beautiful moments. I mean, it wasn't all just about being silly. It was just these really special moments, like in Acadia National Park and sunrises. A beautiful sunrise in Rocky Mountains National Park. Like I said, it's so special to actually do this with, you know, your partner in crime in life. So we had so much fun, and this is us sandboarding in the Great Sand Dunes. In case it's not obvious, this is what winning looks like. Yeah, go Steph. So there's yet another character to the story, Wally. Wally's our Airstream, and Wally is, you know, we named Wally after the founder of Airstream, actually. Wally Bynum is the guy who in the 20s started building these Airstreams, and he's an adventurous soul. I mean, in the 20s and 30s, he was known for his caravans. So he he took like 10 of his friends to Cape Town in caravans all the way up to Cairo in Africa in the 1930s. Can you imagine in some of these small, villages in Africa rolling into a caravan with these, guys in their Airstreams? Incredible guys. So it seemed like a fitting name on this crazy adventure. And this is the Airstream. This was our home. This is where we worked every day. And I can't stress enough the importance of having a little bit of consistency in a year of constant move and changing. This is where we made, this is where we worked, this is where we ate, this is where our home was. And we were not roughing it in any sense of the form of the word, because we had, queen bed and 2 TVs and all this. So it was definitely a nice perk to have the Airstream. But, this is kind of the road trip, right? This is the greatest American road trip. So we're out there in Petrified Forest, Wally looking good, and the Saguaro National Park. We'd stop just anywhere, just in the middle of the road, just to take some pictures of Wally, just a beautiful sunset. And Wally became, part of the family. So I think I've photographed an Airstream from every single angle that you could ever photograph an Airstream for. But this is it, right? This is the greatest road trip right here. This is what the project was about, was getting out on the road and cruising and doing an amazing project. So we didn't stay in Wally all the time. As I said, it's important to actually get into the parks and to really experience them. So we did a lot of camping and backpacking as well. This is in Rangel, St. Elias National Park, one of the most beautiful campsites that we stayed at. Just incredible views. Rangel was up there on my list. I think it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. This is in the Everglades and the Chickees in Florida. We were canoeing there, camping in the Olympic Peninsula, Olympic National Park. This is one of our favorite campsites of the year. You can't even see the tent, but it's basically right behind me. And this place is just amazing. We woke up to this, we walked out, and right there, this is in the Needles section of Canyonlands National Park. This is where we had our morning coffee. It was absolutely incredible. Everglades, great sand dunes, great Smokies. We were out there camping a lot of the time. And we weren't just camping, we were hiking and backpacking as well. This is headed into the Grand Canyon to stay the night down in the canyon. It's amazing when you get off the beaten path of the top of the canyon, where it's very busy and crazy and it's loud and there's a lot of tourists, and you suddenly just dip below the edge, and the further away you get, the quieter it gets, and you suddenly just get this amazing sound of the rushing water of the Colorado River. It's just an incredible experience. This is the next morning, waking up, walking out, beautiful sunrise. Hiking in Zion National Park, if anyone's done the subway, yeah. Big Bend National Park, great hiking there in Texas. A real surprise. Knew nothing about Big Bend. It's an amazing park, beautiful park. Hiking in Rangel, St. Elias again, on glaciers. Another glacier, this time in Kenai Fjords. We had to take a helicopter up here to hike. Hiking in the Sequoia Forest. And the Redwood Forest, the tallest trees on earth. I mean, these are my cathedrals. These are beautiful places. The Olympic National Park. The Badlands. One of the things I loved about the Badlands is you can basically walk out onto any of these formations. And usually in national parks, they don't allow you to do it. But in the Badlands, you can just walk out there. So I spent all my time just walking out onto these amazing formations. Yosemite, an amazing hiking place. We did a lot of paddling too. Steph and I love paddling. Steph grew up in the Northwest in Seattle, and I'm just a paddler at heart. So we did a lot of amazing paddling, and that was kind of our way of getting out as well. So this is in Kenai Fjords National Park with this place called Bear Glacier. This is Bear Glacier again. Amazing kayaking up there. And this is the Noatak River and Gates of the Arctic National Park. I bet a lot of people have never heard of Gates of the Arctic National Park. This is on the far northern slope of Alaska, really far north. We did a 6-day kayak trip down this Noatak River, an amazing experience. This is Lake Clark National Park, Everglades. From the glaciers from the glaciers to the crazy verdant forests of the Northwest, we just did some amazing paddling, and it was so much fun. And I'll never forget this night. This was in Voyageurs National Park, and we saw this amazing sunset happening. I'm like, Steph, get in the canoe or get in the kayak, go out. And this is basically, what took place. This is unedited. This is how it really looked. It was just absolutely incredible. We also tried some ice climbing in Rangel, St. Elias, which was so fun. This is Steph getting geared up for ice climbing. In case you don't know her well, but that's a very nervous laughter right there. And this is her stalling, like, I'm not going to go. And then she gets up and starts to go. And, and this was what this project was about, was trying new things and getting really, out there and seeing what the parks are about. This is me at the top. I made it to the top. Looking back down after getting to the top. So, of course, wildlife is a big part of all the national parks, and we saw a ton of wildlife, as you might expect. This is in Kenai Fjords, and this heron and the dry tortugas, great gray owl and the grand Tetons. And bats, we saw a lot of bats. In American Samoa, these flying foxes is part of the reason why the park was made in American Samoa, to protect these flying foxes. Saw bats in caves as well. This guy's about the size of a little chicken nugget. It looks like one too. And hummingbirds in Saguaro National Park. Of course, many bald eagles, or as they say in Haines, they call them the Haines pigeons because there's so many of them up there. Geese in Yellowstone. This little guy who came over to play with us as we were kayaking in Voyageurs. And whales and humpbacks in Glacier National Park. This is one of my favorite photos that we took this year. I just love this photo. It's a very powerful photo to me with the displacement of the water. One of my favorite creatures, the crazy sea otters, who are always looking at you like, what are you looking at? What are you doing? I mean, to me, this is, green sea turtles in the Virgin Islands, American alligators in Everglades, a raccoon in the Everglades, bighorn sheep in the Rocky Mountains, marmots in Mount Rainier, moose. We saw a ton of moose. I mean, incredible moose everywhere. This was in Isle Royale National Park. We went hiking with a gentleman who's studied moose and the prey and predator relationships in Isle Royale, the wolf moose prey and predator relationship. And really cool watching moose with some guy who studied moose his entire life. And you get a lot of insight in that way. Grand Tetons National Park. We saw some wolves too. This is in Glacier Bay. Wolves in Yellowstone. Caribou in Denali. Got up and close and personal with this red fox and Katmai. It was a really amazing experience. He just kept coming closer. It was just beautiful. And the elk rut, this is one bothered elk right now looking for his harem. They just go nuts in October. Prairie dogs in the Badlands, and their arch nemesis, the wily coyote. Beautiful bison and Theodore Roosevelt. And these are the kings of the road, right? They, when they're crossing the road, you stop for traffic, right? You do not keep going. I spent a beautiful morning with this wild or feral horse, and Theodore Roosevelt, just me and the horse, beautiful light coming in, and it was just a really special moment. So bears, we saw so many grizzly bears. I mean, Alaska was just grizzly heaven. And so I've dedicated kind of a whole section to grizzly bears just because, I mean, goodness, they were such a highlight of our year. And this bear actually snuck up on us when I was photographing. Actually, I was photographing these bears walking across, and that other bear had come up behind us and was watching me photograph these guys. And it was a very spooky moment for a sec. But there's so much food up there. They're just curious. They have absolutely no interest in harming you at all. It's in Katmai, they're fishing. Gates of the Arctic, where, what did Ralph say? Uneducated bears. They have no idea who you are or where you are. They don't see people up there. There's nobody up there. And they're just like, what is that going down the river? This is in Katmai National Park. Along the coast, a lot of people go to Brooks Falls, if you've heard of Brooks Falls, which is a great place, but that's not the park, right? So we wanted to dig in and actually show more of the park. This is on the east coast of Katmai. Katmai is another haven just for grizzlies, just incredible. And I'll never forget this swimming bear. I mean, this guy swam from one shore to the next. It was probably about a half mile, maybe a little bit more, and we didn't see him get in the water. We're just going in the boat, and suddenly you see this thing. Is that a bear swimming? I mean, obviously they swim, and it's not a big deal, but to see one swimming, you're like, wow, that's really cool. So we, followed them along the way. I love anthropomorphizing bears. And every time I see this photo, I'm like, what do you want? What do you want? I don't know. Like, what was that? Like, they're just such beautiful creatures. So the least visited national parks, really interesting, right? Not always what you might suspect as the least visited national parks. North Cascades really blows my mind. Right outside of Seattle, one of the least visited national parks. As I said, we spent 6 days in Gates of the Arctic, cruising down this river. This was the view basically every day. Amazing place. And this was my view every day behind Stephanie. And these bears, they just don't know what you are. They don't even care. They're just like, what is that? I don't care. I'm just going to go keep eating. This is basically the look you get, like, what? What are you doing here? But beautiful park. I mean, Gates of the Arctic is just an incredibly raw and amazing park. And that's basically the view every day, cruising. So much fun. Lake Clark National Park, kind of surprising to me. It's not far from Anchorage. You have to fly in, but this is the view coming into Lake Clark. The namesake lake is in the background there. And I thought it was one of the most beautiful parks I've ever been to. This is the view coming in. This is us kayaking in the Lake Clark area. This is where, Port Allsworth, where you come in to do excursions into the park. Beautiful alpenglow one night. And then we went up to Turquoise Lake. We got a float plane because you have to take a plane everywhere in Alaska. So a float plane dropped us off. We have some foldable kayaks there. Those things fold up. They're like origami kayaks. And we just spent two nights camping out here in this beautiful lake by ourselves. It was just so much fun kayaking around and being there. Does anyone know Dick Pronicki? Dick Pronicki, he's a kind of a Thoreau type. He wrote a book, it's called One Man's Wilderness, and this is his cabin. So this is in Turquoise Lake, or Twin Lakes in Lake Clark. This is where he lived. It's really cool to see this. I mean, he built all the tools that built this place. It's really a unique thing. And of course there's bears. There's so many bears, and they just have so much food that, they don't really care about you. Isle Royale is kind of surprising to me too. It's a beautiful park, and yet it's not far from Chicago. When I say not far, you still have to take a long boat ride to get there, but still, it's really accessible, and yet nobody really goes there that much. Interestingly enough, Isle Royale is one of the least visited national parks, but one of the most revisited national parks. People go there and they fall in love. So you should go there, because then you'll keep going. But it reminds me a little bit of the Maine coast, just beautiful rocky shores with lichen. You take a boat everywhere, there's no roads, just a long island. And of course, that moose study that I talked about, beautiful moose. And you can see the northern lights. I mean, you're in the middle of Lake Superior, in the middle of nowhere. So beautiful, not a lot of noise pollution or light pollution. And as I said, North Cascades really blows my mind. It's just outside of Seattle. And if you live in Seattle, go there. It's an amazing park. Just incredible views, stunningly beautiful. I've never seen so many shades of green as I've seen in this park. I mean, every shade of green that you could think of. We did some incredible hiking as well. Great backpacking trip there. This was kind of the top of the backpacking trip where we're looking back down, where we're going to stay down in there. Beautiful park. It's just an amazing park. And then Kobuk Valley in far northwest Alaska, an amazing park. I mean, I think hardly anyone gets there. You have to fly in. This is the plane that you use to fly in. It can land anywhere with these jumbo tires. And then when they drop you off, and then you have your gear standing there, and you're like, the nearest person is like, 200 miles away, and you're like, holy yeah, it's amazing. But where else can you see sand dunes, trees, and mountains? I mean, it's an incredible park. Two words that should never go together, Arctic sand dunes. I mean, such a crazy concept to me. We never actually saw bear or moose, but we saw prints, and it was my goal. I so wanted to get a bear crossing the dunes. I mean, how weird is that? Bears on dunes. So we took so many float plane flights. We took 26 flights in Alaska, and that's the only way to get around. 26 flights that it was an event unto itself, really, these flights. Half the fun is getting there, and Alaska is an amazing place to fly. If you've never been up there, you should definitely go. These are the planes that you typically fly up there, and it's tight. You're kind of in there. It's like 3 seats and all your luggage, and it's like you're going, and you feel every bump. These are the real airplane flyers. They don't put it on auto control and go take a nap. These guys go nuts. But then you get up in the air, and this is what you see, right? This amazing, amazing views like this. And like this, these meandering rivers that just go on forever. And glaciers. The scale of Alaska is so hard to comprehend. These glaciers just go on forever. More glaciers. I mean, this is not even a national park. This is just beautiful land in the middle of Alaska. It's just incredible. More glaciers. Glaciers as far as the eye can see. Rivers as well. Just an amazing place. So going to Alaska and taking all these float plane flights was an event unto itself. This is Lake Clark as we're leaving Lake Clark on a really rainy day. Really beautiful. This was a flight we took up way in Rangel, St. Elias National Park, where you can see that that this mountain this avalanche had come down and spread out. It's really cool just to be up there and see what happens way up in the world where you don't ever get to, right? And textures of the waterways. It's just incredible. I mean, this is not edited. This is what it looks like. This is amazing. We flew through a double rainbow, or almost through a double rainbow, because you can never quite catch the rainbow, right? So I think we have one of the greatest sets of road images in the world, because we continuously were traveling and seeing these amazing roads. And so we started to, an interesting thing happens when you start to visit park after park after park. For one thing, it's way too much beauty for anyone to ever take in. I mean, I feel like my next assignment needs to be something very gritty and dirty, because I've seen way too much beauty last year. But we start to kind of elevate above the park and see the parks as units and as different, pieces of the same puzzle. So we started to collect these images like roads. I mean, there's roads everywhere, right? Roads in Big Bend, roads in the sequoia through trees, Black Canyon of the Gunnison roads just before a storm coming in, Canyonlands in Utah, roads that go on forever in Death Valley, roads through Sequoia, through Zion National Park, roads that go into the wilderness in Denali National Park, Guadalupe Mountains National Park. And along with the roads, we started to collect these trail images, just of trails that lead on. This is in Mount Rainier, beautiful trail hiking that we did. This is in the Olympics. This is in the Badlands. And this is not a drone shot. A lot of people ask me, is this a drone shot? I would not fly a drone in the national parks. First of all, you can't, and it's illegal, but this is a 27-foot tripod that I kept with me to elevate and get different shots. So this is a tripod that I connected, and with the FUJIFILM cameras, you can connect your phone to them. So I'm sitting there with my phone holding this 27-foot tripod in the air, and people were taking a lot of pictures of me taking pictures, I could tell you that. But you get cool shots like this. How else can you show that scale of the distance of the prairie lands in Badlands? Trails in Yosemite, Congaree National Park, not one that a lot of people get to. In the Badlands National Park. Redwoods, the tallest trees. And reflections, too. I mean, we shot so many reflections. National parks are beautiful places of pure scenery that is really fun to shoot reflections. So we started to collect these reflection shots. This is Voyageurs National Park. This is the North Cascades, Mount Shuksan in the North Cascades. Rangel St. Elias National Park. Beautiful morning in Mount Rainier as the mountains just popping out. Grand Tetons. Grand Tetons is, we hit Grand Tetons and basically the height of fall foliage, and it just blew my mind. I hadn't been there before, and just absolutely blew my mind. In Yosemite National Park. Yosemite again. And as well as reflections, we hit a lot of dunes. There's a lot of dunes in national parks. And I love dune photography. It is so much fun to take pretty pictures of dunes. I could go on and on about dunes. Great sand dunes. Lines that go on forever, ever. So many lines. Very abstract things that you could shoot. This yin and yang dune in Death Valley. Beautiful mornings. Kobuk Valley dunes, Arctic sand dunes. Again, I still can't comprehend Arctic sand dunes. I could go on and on about dunes. I have more beautiful dune shots than I've shot in my entire life, but they were so much fun. And then there's caves, too. There's a lot of caves in the national parks. Before this trip, I never would have thought I was a caver or interested in caves, but they're really cool. I mean, caves are little time capsules, right? They're little things, they're places in the world where not much changes for a long time. And, some of the most artistic formations, this is Carlsbad Caverns, the largest cave in North America, and in fact, I even think it's the world. This cave, they've only mapped 400 miles of Mammoth Cave National Park, and they think it's just a small percentage of what actually is there, because it just goes on forever. Mammoth Cave, Wind Cave National Park in South Dakota. There's more Wind Cave. And you learn about these interesting formations. This is Great Basin National Park. Great Basin has a cave there that has these really interesting shield formations where the formation comes down from this kind of circular disc. And this is the famous parachute shield formation in Great Basin. And of course, my favorite formation ever is Cave Bacon, which I almost went off trail for. So I have this ongoing kind of project of big world, tiny people. And these parks are so big and they're so kind of overwhelming and so beautiful a lot of the times that how do you showcase these places? And so I was very keen to look for these times where there were people that showed the scale of what's going on here. And Death Valley is just an amazing place. That place just absolutely blew me away. And the dunes of great sand dunes, just the scale, the highest dunes in North America, so beautiful places of scale. Arches National Park. Hiking in Rangel, St. Elias against one of the biggest glaciers I've ever seen. The scale of Alaska is just impossible to actually comprehend. Enormous clouds in Kobuk Valley. The tiny photographer in Death Valley, that's not me, but I was very glad that someone went out there and I could get them. Crazy people in Yosemite, hanging on the edge of a cliff. Canyonlands. I'll never forget this shot. I was sitting there photographing. I was like, man, I wish somebody would walk out there. And this guy just like strolls out and like poses. I was like, yes, whoever you are, thank you so much. But just kind of made the shot. Not planned at all. Didn't ask him that. But just fortuitous moment. Joshua Tree. I can't look at this photo without thinking of Homer Simpson. That's just me. I don't know. Yellowstone National Park, Haleakala, hiking into the crater of Haleakala. If you go to Haleakala, please don't just stay at the top. Go in. It's an absolutely amazing place. I shot a lot of black and white too. This is in Big Bend, Grand Canyon. Always a great place to shoot black and white, certainly during a storm rolling in. Virgin Islands, the old sugar mill plantations. This is my ode to Ansel Adams, in the Snake River Valley there. Not nearly as good as his, but tried. The upper reaches of Yosemite. Icebergs and Kenai fjords. Tidal areas in Lake Clark. And then antlers in Kobuk Valley. So on any crazy American road trip, there's bound to be some crazy Americana as well, and we rolled up on some really cool, crazy stuff in America, like these teepees in Route 66. We've just found cool stuff to shoot. You try to not be too off track because you're trying to do the project and the parks, but some of this stuff is just too good not to photograph, like old Route 66 and what used to be left of Route 66 right here. I've seen more firework factories than I think I could ever have known existed. And yes, we did buy some. If you ever go to Death Valley, be sure to bring your tea kettle. It's for Tea Kettle Junction. And we saw a lot of dinosaurs too. Poor Wally almost got attacked one time by his pterodactyl and nearly escaped the T-Rex. It was a close call. Also did some real dinosaur hunting as well. This is in Badlands. Just walking out on those things like I said I was doing, came upon this amazing fossil. It was a 3 million year old fossil that had been recently, the rains had recently washed it up. So, I did my best Indiana Jones, like, yeah, this is my fossil. But it's kind of hard to see, but really cool to see this stuff, in the parks. We also went to this a small detour outside of Wind Cave National Park in South Dakota. This is the Mammoth Site, where this amazing sinkhole and this place that mammoths could not resist in the 10,000 years ago, and it's basically the final resting place of maybe 60 or 70 old woolly mammoths. So you could stand right here and look where this thing died, right there. It's just amazing to kind of be there. Really cool. The southernmost point, which actually isn't the southernmost point, but everyone still takes their picture there. The Dry Tortugas, the home to the 19th century Fort Jefferson. Really, really amazing place. Such a cool place. Stiltsville in Miami Beach. This is actually part of Biscayne National Park in Miami. This is where they used to go to drink alcohol, back in the day when, Prohibition, you couldn't drink, so you just went to Stiltsville and you could see anyone coming from miles away and ditch the alcohol. Hot Springs National Park, which claims really one of the first national parks. It was actually conserved in 1832, 40 years before Yellowstone was. So they claim the first national park, even though Yellowstone really has the first designation. I mean, this is 80 years ago. Can you imagine what this place was like? Every time I look at this picture, this was the gym in Hot Springs National Park. This is the era of the golden fitness in like the 1920s, where guys in tighty whities and jumping around on the balance beam. I mean, this is not your normal gym today, I can tell you that. We ran into Paul Bunyan and Babe, drove up the Alaskan Highway both ways, 5 days each way, epic road trip. Ran into a sign forest along the way. If anyone's ever driven that, this is a sign forest. We stayed in a lot of the beautiful national park lodges. I mean, that's kind of part of the national parks, is these old lodges. This is in Crater Lake National Park, yep. We found a place in Sequoia where a man lived in a tree. I mean, what the heck is that? Good old Tharp lived in a tree. And John Muir, ever the poet, said of good old Tharp that it's a humble abode. Humble abode. He's very poetic. We saw the famous bus that was used in the movie Into the Wild. It's not the actual real bus. This is the replica. Steph got in it, thought about staying for a little bit, but decided maybe not. We even got to a nuclear missile site in South Dakota. This is the famous Minuteman missile site. This is where they could launch the codes, press the red button during the Cold War. Crazy to see it. You can look down in a crazy, nuclear missile. This is a real nuclear missile. Anyone recognize this place? Wall Drug in South Dakota. Good Americana, man. Steph's trying to get lucky with Pappy and me trying to get lucky with the girl there. I don't know what that was. So this is the Kennecott Mine in Rangel, St. Elias, the old copper mine up there. We also found the smallest post office in the United States. This is in Everglades National Park, or right outside Everglades. And we even saw Sasquatch in the Everglades. It does not look like she's getting stolen to me. She's like, see you later. So we also started compiling signs as well. Signs are indicative of parks, right? They tell what's there. And it's interesting to go and see all these different signs in the parks. The rattlesnakes in the Badlands, the bison in Yellowstone. This is one of my favorites, Someone put a cowboy on a deer crossing sign, and this is Alaska to you. This is forever Alaska to me. If you come and we're not here, well, sorry. And I firmly believe that the Park Service has a very good sense of humor. This is a sign pointing to the woods saying, nature exhibit that way. And trust me, there is nothing out there that you actually point to. It's like, you want nature? It's right there, dummy, look. The future generations overlook. I don't know if I could have gone there because I don't know if I'm the future generation or not, but loop trails. This is my favorite sign that we saw. We saw this almost in every park. And this is a plaque to Stephen Mather. This is, I'll read it to you because it's kind of hard to see. It says, he laid the foundation of the National Park Service, defining and establishing the policies under which its areas shall be developed and conserved unimpaired for future generations. There will never come an end to the good that he has done. Wow, that's a powerful statement. I hope someday someone can say something like that about me. That's an amazing statement. There will never come an end to the good he has done. So we start put all these things together. They're really interesting, right? To kind of compare and contrast, and you see your favorite signs and all these different things. And it's not just about signs, it's about textures too, right? We started to collect textures in the parks and see all these different unique textures. Our parks, our world, they're all made up of different textures, right? Really interesting to see all that and to compare all that. But really, in the end, the project was to visit these parks and showcase the absolute beauty of them, and we did. I mean, it was amazing. From there's a beautiful beach in the American Samoa, all the way to the far other side, this Acadia National Park lighthouse, the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, where basically the parks were born. The idea of the parks were born. Dramatic coastline of Volcanoes National Park, the lava flowing into the sea. Cascades National Park, more waterfalls than you could ever count in a lifetime. Running rivers, more waterfalls in Zion National Park. Incredible lakes, Glacier National Park. Mountain layers and Grand Canyon of the Gunnison that just go on forever. Layers in Smoky Mountains National Park. The majestic mountains of Glacier National Park. The Grand Tetons. Like I said, we hit Grand Tetons in the middle of fall foliage, and this is one of those memories that you'll never forget. This beautiful morning at Oxbow Bend, just incredible. The last light on the Cascades before, all the light fades. Dante's view in Death Valley, looking down on Badwater Basin. Beautiful sunset in the Badlands. In the crater in Haleakala. Beautiful trees in the Joshua Tree, as well as the sequoias. One of my favorite mornings of the trip was spending photographing in the redwoods, just birds and beautiful trees. It was just an amazing experience. And then you get to Saguaro National Park, the giant cactus. Hummingbird caught in motion, silhouette in Saguaro. And the last light falling down on Saguaro National Park on the cactus. Big Bend, another beautiful place, a place that had never gone to, never knew. It's an absolutely tremendous place. Guadalupe Mountains, another beautiful park. Of course, the Grand Canyons, the well-known parks like the Grand Canyons, the Badlands, Death Valley, the layered Badlands of petrified forest. This is Blue Mesa. If you've ever been to petrified forest, there's a highway that runs right through petrified forest, bisects the park. Nobody stops. It's absolutely amazing. If you go through, please stop. Amazing park. Geologic formations of Cathedral Valley and Capitol Reef National Park. Of course, the classic views of Delicate Arch and Arches. The night sky in Crater Lake National Park. Star trails in Joshua Tree. And that's really what the project was about, was going to these parks and showcasing them. And I'm happy to say we actually did it. We finished on time. I mean, amazingly so. We came screeching into the finish line December 31st. I envisioned this wild party, and we'd be, having champagne, and yet we passed out for 3 weeks because it was the hardest thing that we've ever actually done, and one of the most rewarding things as well. It was really incredible. So if you want to follow along, we're still posting all this crazy content and all this stuff. These are our Instagrams. We're pretty active on Instagram. The website actually has a lot of great information. So if you're ever looking to go to a national park and you want to get some information like where to hike, what to do, all this stuff, there's a lot of great information there. So go check it out. We're also going to put a book out at the end of the year. If you guys are interested in following along and getting the crazy book, we're going to put something together. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be something cool. Pretty pictures and cool stories of a crazy time that we did. And one last slide to show you kind of the final statistics, right, of this nuts trip that we did. I shot over 300, or we shot over 330,000 photos last year. We didn't take a single day off the entire year. Actually, we took one day off. It was Steph's birthday. We took Steph's birthday off and did nothing. But that was a very hard and fun year, amazing year. So we did it. And that's it.